So with transformations, you always have some type of figure to start with. So that beginning figure is like the original, so therefore it's called the pre-image. It's basically before the image is created. Think of an image like a picture. It's the image, or the picture in a sense, is like a duplicate. So the pre-image must be before the duplicate was created, so it's the original. So a pre-image exists before you move, and it's basically labeled like any original letters that we usually label figures with, like L, K, A, B, any type of letter without any type of markings on it. Now the image is basically like the duplicate or the picture, or what comes after you've done some type of transformation. So to indicate that it's the image, we'd basically take any of those same original letters, but we put an apostrophe on it, which is in math like a prime. So L prime, K prime, A prime, B prime, these are all ways we would be able to label an image. That'll let us know it's the aftermath, it's not the original. So once again, you would read something like this as L prime. That way you're saying the correct terminology. So you may or may not remember this from middle school, but when you translate, you're basically moving the figure. You're not changing the size of this shape, you're basically just moving it. And so in number 1, we have some verbal directions. So we know we're going to go 4 left and 3 down. So basically you're going to take each coordinate that's marked and you're going to follow the directions. So I'm going to look at G and I'm going to move it 4 left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 down, 1, 2, 3. So, I didn't go all the way down, but there we go. So I know this is going to be G prime. So that's the image of G. And we don't need all these little marks. I was just using them to show you my moves. So that was 4 left and 3 down. So I'm going to do that with each coordinate now. And so with L, it'd be 4 left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 down, 1, 2, 3. And here's my new L prime. Once again, we don't need all the moves. Those are just my visuals to show. And my last coordinate is Q. So 4 left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 down, 1, 2, 3. So now I know I have my Q prime. So now if I connect the coordinates and as straight lines as possible, I should see the same exact size and shape triangle, just in a different place on the grid. Shouldn't look rotated or anything like that. It should just be moved. So there we go. Now in number 2, you'll see that in the instructions look a little different. They give you algebraic expressions for the shifts this time. So it's very straightforward, but you just got to make sense of it because it's not in words. So if you are adding 3 to every x, well, if you think about the x-axis as a number line, adding 3 would be going up 3 or increasing by 3, increasing the x value by 3. So you would be going towards the positive direction. So basically, plus 3 means to the right 3. So if you wanted to, you could just draw arrows up there to indicate which way you're going to go. That way you know that before you start moving. So looking at the y, it looks like we are subtracting 4, which just means a decrease by 4. And if this is the y-axis, then going down or decreasing would be going in towards the negatives. So we're going down 4. So basically we just transformed our instructions into directions. And if we go ahead and do it now, you'll see it's very much just like number 1. We're just moving every coordinate. So looking at U here, if I go right 3 and down 4, U prime would be 1, 2, 3, down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be our u prime. All right, so if we do that with each coordinate, we should end up with this image here. So make sure you got the same image as I did in number 2, and we shifted it appropriately. All right, so for number 3, you do not have a graph. Now, if you love graphs, you can always have graph paper and go ahead and do it that way. You don't necessarily have to do it by hand. Think of strategies to solve problems. If you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I know how to do it with a graph, but I don't know how to do it without one, well, then just get a graph. Create your own little graph. Use some type of strategy to solve the problem. All right, but you can do it without a graph because this instruction is simply telling you also what you can do mathematically or algebraically to get your new A, B, or C. So basically your new image, your new shape. So all we're going to do is we're going to add 5 to the x's and subtract 3 to the y's. So basically, we should have negative 5 plus 5 because we're adding 5 to the x's and 0 minus 3. And so if we do negative 5 plus 5, you can use a calculator to check it if you like, you would get 0. And 0 minus 3 is just negative 3. Does not look like 3. There we go. All right, so that's our new image of A. And if you do that with each coordinate, well, now I'm going to add 5 to negative 4. So negative 4 plus 5 is 1. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from this 4. So 4 minus 3 is very important, the order. You're not going to do 3 minus 4 because notice the y value has to be first. So our y value is positive 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. All right, so make sure the order matters. So make sure you use the correct order. So now our x value plus 5, well, that's 0 plus 5, which is just 5. And then our y value minus 3. So 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And that's our coordinate. So basically, if you have the pre-image and you're looking for the image, just follow the rules instructions. Now in number 4, it's a little bit different because basically you have the aftermath. You have to realize you have the image. So whatever numbers we put here, this rule has to be able to happen to those numbers and get these numbers. So one way to do this is you can ask yourself, what number would have to be here that when we subtract 1, we'll get negative 4? So basically, if you're thinking of it, we're saying, okay, we need a number minus 1 that equals negative 4. Now, some of you guys are really good with the number line, and you could just think that up. Okay, I can think of what that is, and I'll get it. Now, another way to just do this quickly is realize if you have the answer, then you need to be going backwards to get the pre-image. So the rule that we have, it's always going to give us the image. To go backwards, all you do is you invert the rule. So instead of x minus 1, to go backwards, we need to find x plus 1. So we can take our images, the x and y values from our image, and apply the backwards rule. And then instead of y plus 8, we need to apply y minus 8 to the image to get the pre-image. So this can make it a little bit easier because now I can take the image, negative 4, and go backwards and add 1 to it. So negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. And 9 minus 8 is 1. So basically, if you have the image, go backwards to find the pre-image. So 3, instead of minus 8, we're adding 8. So 1, not 8. So 3 plus 1 is 4. And 7 minus 8 is negative 1. So that was 3 and 7. So now g prime, to go backwards, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 2 minus 8 is negative 10. Now, one thing to do just to make sure you're right, I know this is really messy now, let me erase this. One thing you can do is just now look at the original rule that's supposed to get you from the pre-image, these here, to these. Look at this rule up here and now see if it works for the coordinates you just created. So now I'm just going to look at F just to check one of them. So looking at F, this one here, 4, negative 1. So now I see that 4 minus 1. Well, yes, that does work. It does give me to 3. Negative 1 plus 8. Well, yes, it does get me to 7. So going backwards does work if you're trying to find the pre-image, if you're basically doing a backwards problem. All right, so lastly, let's say, for instance, you have the image and the pre-image graphed, just like in number 4, and you have to write the rule. It is very, 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 very important that you see which shape you are starting with, because obviously if you don't, like in number 4, the rule will be backwards because we use the backwards rule to get us to the pre-image. We want to start with the pre-image. Remember that the pre-image is labeled normally without any extra markings on it. And in the case of you looking at this screen, I'm sure you can see that it's black. Now, I don't print papers in color, and tests aren't printed in color either, so you have to really pay attention to the markings there and realize that that is the image, because color is not always going to be available. All right, so here is our pre-image. I'll just label it pre on the inside. How about that? Well, let me undo the marking there. All right, so this is our pre, and this is our image. Just abbreviate. So basically, you're trying to figure out how you get from the pre to the image. So one way to do that is just to pick a coordinate, and I'm going to pick A, just because it's A, starts the alphabet, and I'm going to count to see how I get to A prime. Now, it's very important you move just like when you're plotting coordinates. You always move left or right first, and then up or down, because the rule needs to be written as in the format of question 2, which is kind of like a coordinate. So we know we're going to take our x value, so it's always x and then plus or minus something. Now to get from A to A prime, we know we're going to the right. So we're adding to the x value. And then just count to see how many boxes you move. So we move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to get level with the new A prime. So you're just trying to get over there. So we added 6 to A. And now that we're there, so this is where we would be here. How do we get down? So we're going down, which means we're subtracting 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that's y minus 4. So I'll just do that again really quickly just so we can see it without all this scribble scrabble on it. Put that I back. All right, not pretty. Okay, so really quickly, if we started at A, we're trying to get to A prime. I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the positive direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4 down, so minus 4. So notice those are the pieces in my rule here. So to do number 5, just the same way, I'm going to pick a letter. I'm going to go with J. And to get to J prime, I'm going to go 1, 2, and I notice, okay, I'm already on the right line right there. So I'm going to stop there. So that was over 2. Now, very important, you recognize you went this away. So that is negative 2 or minus 2. And then we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 5. So make sure you're paying attention to detail and catching what sign you should be using. And there's our rule. So that's it. Review it, practice it, and we'll move on to reflections.